So, a little bit ago, I was listening to a little John Maxwell, and he was talking about the three wise men. He had talked about how the three wise men, they followed a star. They were on a journey, and they were directed by God. After following this star for an extended period of time, this wasn't like a weekend trip, the destination turned out to be a cowshed. As I got to thinking about this and mulling over this idea, I think the reason why we call them the three wise men isn't just because, that's what the scripture calls them. I think that it's one of these things that if we look at their story, we look at the little bit that we know, they actually do something incredible. And I would say that if you were to ask them, I think that they would be completely awestruck by the impact that they had on the world, the way that their story rippled throughout time. So here they are, these three guys. They start to follow God's direction. They bring their very best, and the star directs them to a cowshed. And they show up, and they have gold, frankincense, and myrrh, which are prizes, right? Which are enormously expensive. And even though they go and they show up and they find that this is a child and this is, a couple of adults, and this is not what this couldn't possibly have been what they had thought. And I think that one of the things that makes them wise is that they showed up with their best, and regardless of the circumstance, regardless of what they had expected and what they found, the conflict between the two, because that's where a lot of our emotions come from, is our expectations meeting reality is where we get happy and angry, and it's the impact of those two things where our expectations and reality collide. They showed up, and not only did they leave their best, but they also continued to follow God's direction because they were told to leave in a different way than they came. I think that in a huge degree, these guys display what we as men are about. We show up in our marriage, we show up in our parenting, we show up in our church, we show up wherever we are at work, and we bring our very best and we leave it there, and then we continue on our journey. And we do this day after day after day after day. This is what we do. One of the things that I really want, one of the things that I hope that you really want, is not to be average, not to be normal or common. The scripture calls Jesus the stone that makes men stumble and the rock that makes them fall. And what I'd like to kind of bring to your attention is that if you're going to be a stone that makes people stumble and a rock that makes people fall, if you're going to be like Jesus, then one of those characteristics is that you are steadfast, you are well grounded, and you are not moved. Nobody trips over a stone that moves. When you kick a pebble, that is very different than when you trip over something. When you trip over something, you stop and you go back and you take a look at it, and or at the very least acknowledge it. It stands out. It's not like everything else. It's not like everybody else. And that is the life that we're called to. We're called to be extraordinary husbands. We're called to be extraordinary parents, extraordinary church members, extraordinary employees. We shouldn't be trying to be like everybody else or just above or measure ourselves against anybody else. Our goal should be to be our very best so that when we come home, we hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant." We are good, we are faithful, and we serve. And this is the only way that we're going to get that acknowledgement. All right, I'm Adam Funderburg. If you got anything out of this, hit the like button so that Google knows that people like you like videos like this. Then other people that Google says are just like you will be presented with this video. Okay, I'm Adam Funderburg, and this has been a Men's Development Moment.